Hello.
Namaste, Katja.
Namaste, Kausthub, and namaste to all the listeners to this interview. Again, we are with you, my dear ladies and gentlemen. So warmly welcome. Post, please, under this interview if everything is technically okay. If you can hear us, we would be very, very grateful for your comments. If everything is okay. So again, we are with you here on the Saturday morning in Europe. And in what time Kausthub is in India?
2:30 in the afternoon in India.
It was just time for your coffee probably, or what?
Oh, it's just after coffee. I just had my coffee a few minutes ago. So I'm all ready for your difficult questions.
Oh my gosh, difficult questions. Yes, of course. So please, guys, if you are here with us, tell us from where you are so that you can help me to ask the Kausthub all these fantastic, difficult questions, as he is saying. For us, are very, very important questions because they really run very deep, mostly because we are learning about the basics, the basic structure, the basic energy structure of the human being or of the world, of the universe that is Kausthub giving us to all these informations. So we are welcoming Kausthub. Here is Claire from Melbourne, 7 p.m. in Melbourne. Hi, Claire. And Rani, hello, Rani. You can hear us. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know that everything is okay. So, Kausthub, how are you?
So far, so good. Surviving the repeated lockdowns. But
Well,
so far,
yeah.
so good.
Great, great. For sure, the lockdown will be released soon, huh?
No. We are
No.
here on lockdown until the end of July at least.
Oh my
Oh, so
gosh. End of June.
end of
How?
June, end of June,
Okay. End of
end
June.
of June.
Okay. End of June. We're here in Europe. It's okay. They already released the borders and pandemic. It's gone, so everything is nice and okay. Welcome back to the world that we are used to. Yeah. So let's start with our interview. let's
Good.
start. Let's start our interview. Hi, Supriya from Mumbai and Kausturi. So Dr. Kausthub Desikachar, as you all know, or for those who are not aware of that Kausthub exists on these interviews, he is a yoga teacher, a profound yoga teacher. He's a yoga therapist. He's also a spirit mentor and a healer. This is why we are going to talk, and we already did in many interviews that you can find on this Facebook page. We talked about energy, about spirituality, about angels and demons on the last interview. So, and Kausthub is traveling around the world, having many workshops and schools and courses. Not now, of course, but half a year ago he did. And he has many clients around the world. So, Kausthub, you are so walking around the earth, yeah, as a traveler. And today our topic is walking in the shadows, looking for light. So, what did you find out? And then I hope you will chant for us, but let's check first with you about the title. What did you find out when you were walking around the earth? Is there more walking in the shadows, or is there more looking for light in people?
I think in the current generation, what is happening is that people are ignoring the light and getting too attached and somehow kind of obsessed with the darkness, trapped by the darkness. Even though from their mouth is coming that they want to search for light, they are seeking light. But in my realization, I have felt that people are much more attached to the darknesses. And that is what is coming to the fore now when you see all these problems that we have, whether this is this pandemic or now recently, more recently, the racial crisis that has come to the surface all over the world. It's not new. It is something that is just coming to the surface all over the world. I feel that people are always dominated by the darkness, and slowly now more and more people are looking towards finding and living light, even though it's not really so easy.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you, Kausthub. So let's just say a few words about what we are going to say, because these are really very basic things that because we really go very deep. This is why they are basic and sometimes can be also misunderstood. But Kausthub is going to say us and explain us these basic things from light and dark, from profound teachings from yoga philosophy. So you take what you want, and if you need any explanation about it, just write down. Kausthub will gladly answer for sure, and maybe we can have another interview about your topic that you want any more clear about things that you don't understand, because there are things that it might be maybe shocking, or we just want to avoid misunderstanding. Okay. And just to introduce myself, I am Katja Ujcic. I'm also yoga therapist, yoga teacher, art therapist, and a therapist for the gifted people that are coming and bubbling up now in this period of the earth. So, and I'm also a student of Kausthub Desikachar, and I'm very grateful for that. But now we are going to listen to Kausthub chant.
I hope everybody can hear clearly, because one person has said the audio is not so clear. I hope it's clear now. If you feel it's clear, just let us know in the comment.
Yes.
Ayatu Varada Devi Aksharam Brahma Sammitam Gayatri Chandasa Mata Idam Brahma Joshaswanaha Om Josi Om Sahosi Om Balamasi Om Bhrajosi Om Devanandhamanamasi Om Vishwamasi Om Sarvamasi. Om Sarvayuhu Abhibhurom Gayatrim Avahayami Savitrim Avahayami Saraswatim Avahayami Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.
Namaste. So let's just start with the questions. So as you all know, we are talking today in this interview with Kausthub about walking in the shadows and looking for light, as we all can relate for sure. So, Kausthub, what does actually means walking in the shadows?
Hi, everybody. Sorry for the sound trouble. I actually bought this new microphone for your sake, Katja, because you insist on this microphone. Anyway, I'm very grateful that we are talking about these kind of topics because I think the time is very right now all over the world. Because when I travel all over the world or when I see people who take classes from all over the world, this topic is becoming more and more relevant because we all know that there are many kinds of suffering that we have, but somehow we don't necessarily seem to know the exact reason or the reason to attribute directly to what the hell is going on. And this is because there are some shadow actors that are playing in our lives, which is either coming from an unconscious domain or from our ancestors or something that we are picking up energetically from different places and different relationships and things like that. And this is something that is influencing us. And in some ways, it forces us to avoid the light. See, I live in a very hot country and I've traveled to very hot countries like Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. And very often, what is so fascinating is that they have long passages of like shades under which people are walking. So we are walking in the shadow literally and somehow metaphorically as well, because we have built these structures either consciously or unconsciously, or have embraced these structures consciously or unconsciously to avoid the light. And this is what I mean that we are walking in the shadow because we are not allowing light to touch us enough and to grace us enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because if our seed potentials have to manifest into their reality, it needs light. When you look at seeds of plants, they cannot grow only if there is shadows. They need the light of the sun to bring life to it and somehow allow it to manifest. And that is what we as a society have failed to do, which is to receive light. I'm using these words very carefully because it's not that there is some part of the world where there is light and some part of the world where there is not the light. What we are talking about is that there is light everywhere. There is the chance to be in contact with positives, with lights everywhere. But somehow, because of fear or because of habits, we have become obsessed with walking in the dark. And for many of us, this is also because at a deep subconscious level, we are not valuing ourselves enough that we are allowing to bask in the light and come out of the shadows so that we can fully engage in our potential. I see a lot of people just so obsessed with staying in their darkness. Either they are like a victim role, like, oh, my life is so bad. Oh, everything is going wrong with my life. Oh, all my past incarnations are pulling me down. Oh, nobody appreciates what I do. Oh, I don't think I will succeed in what I will do. So there's a lot of people who are just staying in their darkness and somehow walking back and forth in this shadow. And sometimes it is their choice. Sometimes it may not have been their choice, but somehow they seem to be trapped by it. This is what I'm realizing again and again. And especially a lot of the people who come to yoga and spiritual field nowadays, they, on the lips, they say that they want light, they want to come to yoga because they want to search for light. But the moment they see that the light can illuminate something inside of them which they don't want to see or which they don't like to see, this creates a big panic and they just run the opposite direction towards the dark side and stay there and be there. This is very, very commonly what I see. Very commonly, this is what I see.
Yes. So, is it like that it's forbidden for us to see that we are in the shadow, or is also maybe that some people are, let's say, meant to go into the light more, and some people are meant to stay in the dark?
I don't think that anything is forbidden, whether it is to look at our darkness or to embrace our light. It's not at all forbidden. And and very often in our spiritual evolution, it's essential to acknowledge the dark sides of us before we can evolve into our potential. However, the problem with many people is the darkness is a tamasic energy. And one of the great qualities of tamas is it's very sticky. I don't know if you've seen that original Spider-Man series, and there is a part 3, which what's that guy's name? Tobey Maguire plays, where the black thing is sticky. It sticks onto him. And it's very fascinating because Stan Lee is quite a genius because he takes a lot from Hindu and Vedic philosophy. And that's where I come. One of the great tools to deal with this kind of stickiness or darkness is sound vibrations. And that's exactly what he's using in the Spider-Man as well, where when the sound of the church bell is ringing, the black thing falls away. And this is basically what mantra is doing. So the dark is very, very sticky. So if you keep walking in the dark, what happens? It keeps sticking onto you, and at some point it kind of covers you and it becomes your identity. And you don't want to let go of that identity. you start defining yourself through that darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the big problem for most of us, because we tend to stay with the tamas, which is very sticky. And that's why to get rid of tamas is very difficult, because it's very sticky.
Mm-hmm.
So, as far as we can, the earlier we look towards light, the earlier we step out of the darkness and walk towards light, the better it is for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not taboo to look at the darkness and say, oh my God, I've got some darkness sticking onto me. If somebody says they don't have any darkness, they are in the biggest illusion of the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we need to acknowledge that, and we need to look at our challenges from the dark side, from the shadows side, and we need to step forward towards the light as early as possible.
Mm-hmm. So, as far as I can see with myself or with my clients, is when this darkness starts to, let's say, deteriorate and collapse also in the brain, the electricity starts to collapse, or the identity, the old identity starts to collapse. There is a very, very big fear inside. And people are confused, and there is some sort of void, like, and what now if I am not that, yeah, which was supported by darkness. So what now? Yeah, what do you recommend, Kausthub, in this void?
I, I don't know this word void so much, except in the
As a
Star
feeling,
Trek.
yeah.
No,
uh,
but what is very, very common problem, and this is what I tell all the people, is our evolution follows four stages: Arambhavastha, Ghatavastha, Parichayavastha, Nishpatiyavastha.
mhm.
And already in the second stage, which is exactly what you're talking about, is that the moment we confront our darkness and say, hey, you know what, you are not me, that's one recognition we have to have, is that we must not allow the darkness to define us. Neither must we allow the light to define us, because light and dark are just things that are somehow nourishing our life or passing through in our life. We are beyond that. We are a seed potential. We are our dharma. So, part of the problem when people start to embrace the darkness and stay with the darkness, be in that victim role, is that it kind of becomes their identity. And in the second stage, what happens, there is what is called the Ghatavastha. This identity starts crumbling.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the whole world around them is collapsing. And that's probably what you call the void. At some point, it's a crash.
Crash. Yeah.
Now, for us in the field of yoga, when we talk about this spiritual evolution, this is not a bad thing at all. It basically means the old structure that we have embraced as our own is letting go, so that something new and more positive can come. Now, I'm often using a glass to drink water. So how can I drink water if I had drunk coffee in this glass before? So we need to clean that, right? So that's what is happening in this process as well, where sometimes when this kind of collapse is happening, it's a cleaning process. It's a
Mhm.
cleaning process, and it leads to the third stage called Parichaya Avastha, which is what you can call as the great void. It seems to be like so heavy, so full of darkness, and it seems like a very, very long time that we have to be there. And that is why in traditional times, there's a couple of things that the people were usually taking into consideration when they went into such kind of spiritual practices which dealt with the darknesses, which is, first of all, they would do that under the guidance of a mentor who can hold us and support us when this kind of crash is happening.
Yeah.
And the second thing, which is so much more important,
Mhm.
is to give the required kind of time and space needed for this evolution to happen. If we have to maintain a 9 to 5 job and maintain family life and maintain our extra additional social media obsession, and then to find time for spiritual evolution, it's not going to happen. We need to give the required kind of space and time for these things to evolve.
Yeah.
This is one of the problems in modern time as well, because we have become rats in a race, running, running, and running to remain in the same place. To remain in the same place. And that is the challenge of engaging in spiritual practices in the modern era. That's why the ancient people, whether it's the Christians or Hindus or whichever country they were, they went into some kind of monasteries where they would isolate themselves, give them the space and the time that they would need. For example, in Christianity, you have what is called the cloistered monasteries, where they would just go and lock themselves in, and where they would just meditate and reflect and deal with all these demons for the space, for a required amount of space and time, whatever they required. The yogis went to mountains and caves, isolating themselves so that they give themselves the space and time. And it's also very important because this is respectful to the others as well. Because when you are dealing with some kind of these kind of dark forces or dark entities, it's also possible that it may affect other people if they are too close to you. Because if, let's say, something toxic is going to leave you, where is it going to go? If somebody else is around and they are vulnerable, it catches them. That's why I told you in the beginning that sometimes we catch these dark sides from somebody else, from some place, from some animal, from some human, from some other situation. And especially if we are sensitive, if we are open, if we are vulnerable, and most importantly, if we are naively curious, not carefully curious. There's a difference between being carefully curious and being naively curious.
Yeah, this is very
Naively
good.
or arrogantly curious.
Okay, I found myself in this naively arrogant curious many times. Now I'm more careful.
I tried to warn you.
Yes, you warned me, yeah. Especially because we are therapists, it's very important. But this is then the topic for maybe next time. Michelle also just wrote down exactly what you said, that a good teacher and time and patience to give to ourselves and to our processing of trauma and pain, exactly as. So then are we in a way?
I want to say something because
Yes,
this is very,
please.
very important, if you don't mind.
Of course.
It's not only through trauma and pain that we accumulate dark things. Sometimes it can also be through extremely pleasurable things. For example, I have seen in many students of mine that they have picked up dark energies from others through careless, pleasurable sexual relationships, for example. And so it's not always through trauma that you pick up dark things. It's also through some very careless, pleasurable things that you do. And it's not only about sexual things. Sometimes people, they drink and party in certain places, and it is also through those kind of circumstances where apparently they seem to be having a good time, but they have picked. I have worked with a very young girl who had such an experience as she just went to a very exciting drug party and took some drugs and was having a great time and dancing and laughing with her friends. And she became so affected by some dark energies that affected her during this process, and she suffered for about 3 years after that.
My gosh. Yeah.
And so that's one very important point, because it's not only through painful, traumatic experiences that we pick up these things. It's actually also through pleasurable, careless experiences that
Careless.
we
Hmm.
pick up these kind of things. And sometimes it could also be through some kind of work related circumstances. Like, for example, let's say somebody is like a doctor or a nurse, or who is especially working in critical care, where there is a lot of people dying, and you're working with those kind of people. And if, let's say, somebody is existing where some kind of dark energies are with them and they are going to die, when they are dying
Oh,
in that circumstance, through surgery or through an intensive care unit or a critical care unit, let's say if a nurse is attending to them or a doctor is attending to them, it's quite possible that this may get carried on to these people, because dark entities need, I can't
a
believe I'm
host.
saying all these things. Dark entities need some kind, not just a host, but a host that is accessible to energy, an organic form
Yeah,
of life.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So that's why it's not just through pain and trauma, it's through other circumstances. That's why I often use this word. We have to be careful in many of these circumstances, especially careful where our curiosity is.
My gosh. I'm so curious in dark.
We know.
But it's a curiosity, because in a way, as you said in the last interview, the light and the dark are exchangeable. So they are, it's like fluid. One cannot exist without the other. Yeah. So this is why I'm interested, why actually maybe darkness exists, let's say, or how, what actually means by uh, uh, having darkness, connecting darkness. Is there any point in that which is
Yeah.
deeper, Kaustubh? Yeah.
See, all the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, they have a purpose. And darkness is dense. That is what gives us structure. Structure is created by the tamasic energy.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
can't have a structure
Yeah.
without that. So we need the play between the two. And darkness is needed so that we can appreciate the light.
Wow.
Because if you look at some countries like Norway or Sweden or northern parts of Canada, for example, in some seasons, all they have is light. And they can't manage it. They can go crazy because light does not ground us. Darkness, in some way, grounds us. So we need a combination of all this, and we need to learn how to dance between all these things in an appropriate manner, so that where there is the need for light, we engage. Where there is a need for darkness, we engage with that in that context only. So we must not allow neither light nor darkness to define us, because light and dark is not who we are. Those are parts of us, but who we are is our dharma. That's why the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the teachings is so fascinating, because they're saying that we have to transcend beyond light and darkness, because we are neither light nor dark. We have got both light and dark sides, but that is not who we are. We are not that. We are our swadharma, swabhava, our seed potential. I am not the sun or I am not the moon. I am the seed potential that defines who I am, and that is what I have to express. And a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people don't realize this. People talk as if, oh, you know, I'm a light person, I'm a dark person. These are all dangerous situations.
So, Kausthub, as I understood, you are saying or trying to say to us, and let me ask you this. I hope I'm right, or not. Yeah, there are good things in dark, and there are bad things in light.
I don't even want to say the word good and bad because that puts a
Okay.
judgment. What I
Okay.
would like
Yeah.
to say, there are useful things in the dark and there are not so useful things in the light as well. They're useful and non-useful, or appropriate or inappropriate. Even that
Yeah.
becomes judgmental. So I would say
Yeah.
there are useful and non-useful
Useful.
things,
Yeah.
both
So
light and dark.
great. So how can, for example, the dark be useful?
As I said, it gives us,
You said. Yeah.
yeah, it gives us structure. It gives us a sense of grounding. It is a reminder for us to not make these mistakes that we made, so we carry that darkness. So darkness, the dark side is there as a great teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Light is not the best teacher. Light is a guide for us to move forward. Darkness is the best teacher. The greatest things I have learned in my life personally, apart from my lessons with my father, is through the darkest experiences of my life.
Yes.
I have not learned as much from the most joyful experiences of my life as much as I have learned through the darkest experiences of my life. I mean, I have learned more. For example, a very simple example, I have learned much more about life during my father's death than during my daughter's birth.
Mm-hmm.
So the darkness is the most difficult, but at the most rewarding teacher. Darkness is the most difficult, but the most rewarding teacher. And it's also reflected in the planets.
Mm-hmm.
In Indian astrology, I am not very great expert of Indian astrology, neither am I expert of Western astrology, but I just know a little bit that I can share this. In Indian astrology, Saturn, the most heavy planet, is considered to be the most difficult one. We say in India, we call it Yelranattu Sani. That means the 7.5 years of Saturn
Yes.
affecting you.
Sade sati.
It's the most difficult time. But when Saturn leaves, he gives us a great lesson of teaching and then showers us with all the gifts if we listen to that teaching. That's the beauty of darkness. It's the greatest teacher, even though it's the most difficult one. But we can't be attached to the darkness always because that will consume us. Our system is neither made to handle too much light, nor is it made to handle too much darkness. This is a lesson we have to remember. We can't say, oh, I want to embrace all the light, oh, I want to embrace all the darkness. Neither is possible. We will get consumed.
Mm-hmm. Physically, you mean like and
In,
energetically, our
ev-
body.
in every sense.
In every sense, of
Yeah.
course. So, for example, let's say the non-useful part of light is that what we are all in other spheres, or we are too much into, let's say, for example, New Age. I'm sorry, but it's
No,
not
I feel
judgmental, but
no,
yeah,
no, no, no. But
yeah,
I don't even consider New Age as light. I
yeah, yeah,
still feel that's partly
yeah, yeah,
darkness.
yeah.
When we talk about genuine light, I feel that the one of the non-useful parts of light, which I've experienced myself, and therefore fallen back to the darkness, and therefore learned the lesson, is that
Mm-hmm.
the light can make us very complacent.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And that is the biggest risk in our life if we allow things to become complacent and we take it for granted. See, when there is light, we are never careful. We just keep walking on the street because we just know that there is light. So we are on the mobile phone and walking on the street. What happens? We don't see the hole in the street, especially in India, and we fall. Or we hit in your country, maybe you hit a pole with lamp for the light or something like that. Because in light, we take things for granted. Whereas at the same time, if it was in the nighttime, you keep your eyes much more open to see, hey, what to do. Especially you cannot look at the phone in the nighttime because your phone light is much brighter than the others. You won't be able to see anything. So you have to switch off that light too, so that you're more careful to see. So the non-useful part of light that I see is the capacity for complacency that comes very quickly because we take things for granted. And this is one of the things that I have to say makes many spiritual people fall, because the moment we start tasting light, we start becoming a bit complacent and we fall. That's why Patanjali says, Tatra sthitau yatno bhyasaha. Practice is not only to help us reach a state of a higher state, but to sustain that state, because it's very easy to fall down because complacency comes.
Great. Yeah.
And even in the third chapter, when he talks about extraordinary powers, like all these sense of smell, sense of hearing, heightened sense of all these kind of powers that we have, like intuition and this and that. He still says, te samadha upasargam yuthane siddhaya. It can still make you fall if at that higher level you become lower level by becoming complacent. So that's the problem with the light, one of the disadvantages of light. It makes us very complacent.
So then we need to be very careful, or maybe be very smart to use light and bring light into the darkness, and at the same time bring dark into the light.
Exactly.
And it's like, then it's like serpent. Oh, I'm so smart. It's like then a circle.
Well,
Circle. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Maybe you are smart, and you are, but this concept has already been explored by the past people. And if you look, that's what he talked about, the Hatha Yoga, Ha and Ta, which has been represented also in the Chinese symbolism of the yin and the yang, the circle of light and the circle of dark.
Exactly.
But even the white circle has a black spot and the black circle has a white spot.
Yeah.
That's very important to remember, because there is nothing that is pure light, there is nothing that is pure darkness except the divine.
My gosh, Kausthub, I just got this now by myself. You see how helpful you are with all this? My gosh, it was my insight. Thank you. Guys, did you had any insights also in this interview today? Let's check. We have Stephanie. I'm sorry, I don't speak French, and I think Kausthub also didn't learn.
I know the first and the last word. I say bonjour.
Bonjour.
And that's all I know. I don't know anything else.
Yes. And Shailaya, hello. I hope I pronounced it okay. We have Shailaja.
In Indian language, the J is J, not like in Slovenian where it's Ya.
Yeah, Shailaja. Okay, yes. So, Shailaja, you're saying we have to transcend our light and darkness, and we are a seed potential, as you said, Kausthub. Maybe at that point, does this seed or seeds in us need just light, or maybe also a pinch of dark?
Where are you planting the seeds?
In the earth. Again, I'm so smart.
The seeds don't grow in the air. They need something dense for the manifestation of the potential. But it's so fascinating, because when you look at the trees, which are our greatest example, they are rooted to the earth, but they're always seeking the light. I remember as a young kid, in the biology class, we used to do experiments where we had to plant a plant, and we need to put it in the shoebox with a hole on the side, and we will see that in a few days the plant will move towards the hole in the shoebox to search the light. And so the plants always are seeking the light. That's why I said we have to walk towards the light. Even if we are planted in the darkness, that's okay. And that is what I always try to tell people, is to turn your face towards the light. That's all that we need to start with.
Yeah.
And we don't need a lot of light. We just need a little light, and that's enough.
Wow.
See, it's beautifully explained in Vyasa's commentary of the Yoga Sutra, where he is talking about this is so beautifully, where he says, when you place, and this is a concept that he's talking about, illumination. When you place a little lamp inside of a small pot, in the old days they used to have a pot for water, it illuminates the pot. But you take the same lamp and place it in a room, it illuminates the room.
Mm.
You take the same lamp and you place it in a palace, it illuminates the palace. So all we need is a spark of light, and that's enough. So a little light is enough for us. That's the problem. People think that we need lots and lots and lots and lots of light in our life. We can't manage that. Can any one of us stare the sun directly for a long time? We will get burnt. So we just need a little spark of light that is illuminating us, and that is what is so fascinating about this concept. We don't need to search, and this small piece of light you can find through the connection you share with your child, the connection you share with your dog, the connection you share with your cat, the connection you share with nature like a river or a mountain, something that is a light connection. That's enough.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's great, yeah, because as you said, we think, oh, well, we need to then meditate for 4 hours and going into ashrams for a few months, and then maybe something will happen, or take some heavy dosage of some sort of plants or something that people are doing. So actually what we need is a little sparkle, which probably it's really from the heart. Then it's not manipulating sparkle, let's say.
There is a pun about the word guru, because many people who go to the ashrams are going in search of a guru. In Sanskrit language, guru also means heaviness.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
sometimes when you stay with a wrong guru, for example, you could become heavy and you get heavy. So we don't need all these kind of ashrams and other things. In reality, all we need is a spark, a little spark that connects us to light. And if it happens through a guru or a teacher, that's fine. But at the same time, we must not become dependent. We must live life with light as the guide, and in some ways darkness as the teacher or the foundation to live that. Take certain examples of what is happening in today's times. Let's take a simple concept like strength. And when strength is dominated by darkness, you end up having a person use strength violently or forcefully or in an inappropriate manner. It's exactly what happened to this man called George Floyd in America right now, who was killed by somebody by use of force that was guided by the dark. Now, strength guided by the light is not pushing down somebody, but lifting up somebody. So you can use the same strength, for example, as a healer. We have to hold a person, elevate a person. We are using that strength guided by the light, not pushing somebody down guided by the darkness. So every action that we take can have a foundation of light or darkness. That's why I said we are neither light nor our darkness. How we use them shapes our life, but that's not who we are. We can allow the lightness to illuminate the seed potential we have and allow that to grow. That's what we need to remember and reflect.
Yeah, so it's a sort of energy, let's say energy management of energy. You take a little bit of dark and put light on it. So when we are
Always.
in dark place, or then we see, okay, I am in sadesati now, oh my gosh, yeah. So it's what I try to do is now, because I am in certain period of my life, yeah, in situation, I take this, let's say, pain that it's in me, I can feel it with my body and with my senses and in my heart, and I connect to my light that I feel, and I just put the light on it. I don't think a lot about it, or I don't try to reasonable it or judge about it. I just try to, let's say, manage this energy in that way. This is how I do it in my personal way. So, and I find it really very good. Very quickly, it turns like it takes few days, and I'm, let's say, over this process. Yeah. So the light really helps, but it for me, it's really, I can see the truth behind that. So I say, okay, this is the darkness in me. I don't judge the other person, and then I put the light into me, in my heart. Also in the other person, I did put the light. Also with your, chanting that you teach us, that we put the light in other person. Also, this is really very helpful. Also, uh,
It's it's one of the reasons why I chose the chant that I did today, because
yeah,
it's the
yeah,
chant of Gayatri, the feminine form of the sun.
yeah,
And the chant is asking us to invoke that Gayatri into our heart. That means we are invoking light into our heart so that we can be guided from that place of
yeah.
light, not from the place of darkness. Because every moment we are confronted in life where we have to act, we need to choose a software that will guide our action. What's
Yeah.
that software going to be? Is it going to be a software that is based on light, or is it going to be a software that is based on the dark? That's going to trigger how we respond to an action.
This is also an answer to the Claire's question that she was asking about the chant you chant in the before. Yeah, it's great. So there was also another question. I think it's very important about the protection from these dark entities that you were saying. I think this probably is another topic, but maybe just, to that we don't leave people in non-protective environment. Kausthub, maybe you can say a little bit about that.
Well, in Vedic tradition, I don't know other traditions, but I'm very sure there are protective mechanisms in other traditions. In Vedic tradition, there are many kinds of chants like kavacham, which are protective chants. And it's very fascinating because when we did the global Vinyoga prayer, we did many of these protective chants as well. Now, those chants, they are not just chants, but they are used in some kind of like a ritual to protect our body by touching different parts of the body. We recite certain sections of these chants. So, in some way, what we are doing is we are building an energetic shield on our body,
Mm-hmm.
so that when we are working with people from whom we may get some kind of darkness, we are protected. Our light will be shared to them, our darkness will not be shared to them. This is very fascinating because it's also a protection when to the other, that our darkness does not affect them in the healing process.
Wow.
The same way, the opposite, that their darkness is not going to come to us. So we protect ourselves using these chants that are called the kavachams, many of which is in which we chanted is still on the website for people to download the text or the audio. You can do that. These are ways, one of the ways through which we are protecting ourselves. The other way is daily practice.
Yeah.
Practice yoga as a spiritual practice, not as a physical practice. That's the problem. In modern time, most yoga is taught as a musculoskeletal exercise.
Yeah.
Yoga is not at all that. Yoga is a spiritual practice, and practice it in that form as if it's a spiritual practice is one of the ways as well that we can protect ourselves. This is two things that we have to remember.
Mm-hmm. Also, because, for example, a lot of people, they're doing, let's say, some sort of meditation in a group, also online, and in that kind of connection can also something happen. I presume, you know, there is dark everywhere. So if they are not protected in, let's say, in an online group of meditation, can something also happen, Kausthub? Like I just was thinking about that.
Of course, energy has no boundary.
Yeah.
Just because we are not in one dimension, energy has no boundary. Energy can travel from one place to another. And it works in mysterious ways.
Exactly. Yeah. That we don't
And
know.
that
Ah.
we don't know. That we don't know. And that's the basic point. I remember some time ago, I had a dream about a very fascinating dream where there was a kangaroo with a little baby in its pouch, and it was jumping from one place to the other. And at some point, the baby kangaroo jumped out and took a few steps forward and turned towards the mother, and the mother was not there. So, this is a dream that came to me. So instantly I had a feeling that that this meant something. So I reached out to one of my students who lives in Australia, who I thought that this dream connected to.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how are you? Is everything okay? And her response was, oh, my mother just died.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now, this is a time before online classes and internet. This was about 12, 13 years ago. So it's something that is not dependent on a physical location. Even if you are reflecting about somebody, the from your heart, this portal opens.
Yeah.
This portal opens. So, in some way, this we have to understand that it's not. People should not think that it is safe just because they're not in the same room or just because they're not in the same country. This is what I tell a lot of people who run away from their trauma from one country to another.
Yes.
They run away from their mother or the father or something, or some of the ancestor. I say, hey, listen, just because you are running away, it doesn't mean that you are safe, because the energetic cords, they don't function the same way. They're not linear. And that's the important thing that we have to remember. And I've seen it more than once. Many times this has happened.
Yeah. Exactly. So Erika is saying, also through the voice we connect. Yeah. For sure we do. Yeah. Maybe, you know, now it's very, very popular to talk about frequency, about the vibration, about the manifestation. I think it's a little bit, how they say, not seriously a serious approach. Yeah. to that, as I can see how many online courses about that is because there is so much deeper layers of that, of the vibrations of frequency, and of course manifestation. For sure, this is a very, very high quality of light, and we cannot just how they say experiment with that, I think. Regarding the voice, what about what can you say to us about that vibration, in terms of how can we be more careful about that? Because
How can you be careful about that? Well, like I said, the whatever method you're using to spiritually protect yourself, you are immune to any of these kind of let's say interventions. But sometimes I actually want to say it's the opposite. Sometimes the power of vibration can actually be liberating for in certain circumstances. Let me give you an example. Now, sometimes there are people who are about to die, who are suffering a lot, but somehow they are not dying.
wow. Yeah.
Now, now there's many theories. I'm telling you, there are many reasons for this. I'm talking about one reason. Now, one reason may be that it's not that they are not dying, but something is not allowing them to die. Okay, do you understand what I mean? Some
Yeah,
kind of
I
dark
understand. Yeah.
thing is not allowing them to die. And it has happened in some cases where I've been confronted with that kind of a situation. So I record some kind of a chant for that person and send to them. And in these cases, while they've been listening to the chants, they have gone peacefully.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, because the power of this sound weakens the power of these dark
Yeah.
energies, especially if the chant is appropriate.
Great.
And it has to be done with the right intention and things like that. And so we can see that. That's why I told you about that Spider-Man story. It's not
Yeah.
just a fantasy, it's a reality.
Yeah.
That's why every spiritual tradition in the past, whether it's Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, Judeo-Christian tradition, Islamic tradition, or even the pagan traditions, in every part of the world, they always use sound.
Sound. Yeah.
Because sound is a powerful cleanser of dark side, of the dark entities.
Great.
It's very strong.
Thank you very much, Kausthub, for saying that. I know it could be also scary for some people, and in that point, we are again saying about the disclaimer, small disclaimer, that what we are talking here is you can take it or leave it, is something that are the basics of. Kausthub is smiling, which means
Because it's like the advertisements we see on the TV, which puts the
yeah.
disclaimer saying these stunts are performed by expert professionals in controlled circumstances. We urge you not to perform the same. It's something like
Yeah,
that.
but it's a little bit like that, because I know that all that the people that are listening to us are your students, or they know you and they know me. So in a way, we know that they will understand. But maybe for someone who is not so much acquainted with this, it's very good to know that these are the basics, which are coming from Kausthub, your own experience, and from yoga philosophy, yeah. But and we are doing this just for to be clear about that, and to know the system of the energy, and really with very, very good intentions, and full of light. Yeah.
Yes, but also to allow people to understand that there are certain experiences that they are going through which may seem to have no particular cause, to understand that there may be some other cause that is unknown to them because something else is affecting them, not themselves. This is
Yeah.
also.
Exactly. We were trying to put the blinders off and to put more clarity to the people, to offer that. Yeah. But sometimes, this dark and light is misunderstood, that is misunderstood in the world. Yeah. But we are trying to make this clearer. For sure, there are many things around it. This is just 1 hour of interview. And we need to, of course, it needs to be for a lot of people, not just for a few. Yeah. That we understand what's going on, or at least try to understand. Yeah. So guys, if you have any question, hi, yes, Linda, hello Linda, how are you? Is asking, could we also say that together the light and dark contains, let me see if it works, look. And that they all have a role to play in our evolution. Linda, you're on screen, your question. Finally, we changed this banner. So, Kausthub, what are you going to say? Yeah.
I'm answering from only the point of view of the Vedic tradition.
Yeah.
Light is beyond any of the elements, whereas darkness contains all the elements.
Hmm.
Light is beyond matter. It's light creates the space, and then wind comes, then fire, then water, then earth. So light is beyond elements,
Yeah.
therefore beyond the gunas, whereas darkness is made of all.
So, without darkness, we would not be here on Earth alive. Also,
That's the
regarding
other. That's
elements.
the other plus of the darkness is what is giving us structure and keeping us alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
guys, we are here. We need dark, but we need to know how to manipulate it in a good way. So,
Yeah.
Kaustubh, do you have any other advice for us regarding this dance between dark and light? Like, yeah,
Spirituality is like medicine. You can't self learn to be a doctor. You can't self prescribe. You need to learn through a capable and competent teacher the concept of medicine, the concept of how the body works, and therefore what kind of medication to recommend. And this is exactly the same in the spiritual domain as well, where we can't become like curious just and careless.
yeah,
We need to be curious and careful, and most importantly, respectful. If you want
yeah.
to not be affected by the dark, you need to start learning to respect it.
Wow, great.
And you need to start respecting it. And one of the things about respect is when you respect somebody, you're always taking a distance, you're stepping back. You don't respect, when you're too close, the concept of respect disappears. That's why traditionally in India, the student and the teacher, they would have a little bit of space so that that respect, mutual respect, is
Mm-hmm.
maintained. If they become too close, that respect disappears. And that's the same with the light and the dark. We need to keep a little bit of distance between the two, a respectful distance, so that we are closer to our swabhava, swadharma. And that
Yeah,
is what I would say. Don't be carelessly curious. This is part of the modern Western phenomena, I feel, because a lot of Westerners now are into spiritual tourism to do things like ayahuasca or
Yeah,
things like a Cambo frog and things like that because they want all these experiences and because they want to just think that they want to grasp it as soon as possible.
yeah,
That's being carelessly curious and it can be quite dangerous.
yeah. Instant enlightenment. It's like that. I think that they are.
There's nothing like an instant enlightenment. Even Buddha had to suffer a lot before he became enlightened. He had to do so much tapas. He had to face his ego. He had to do so much. And if we think that we are going to be instantly enlightened, then we are basically saying we are better than the Buddha. I don't think it's
Exactly. I think no one is in that position now in this earth. Yeah, like that.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
Every enlightened person has gone through a lot of struggles, a lot of challenges before they became
yeah.
enlightened. It's nothing instant, and none of them took any hallucinogenic drug to become enlightened.
Yes, exactly. Great. And in the end, maybe Kausto also have some sort of like self-love from all that you told us today. Yeah, it's self-love in terms of let's give us to ourselves time and space. Let's find a very good teacher. Let's find a spiritual practice that suits us. Let's take care of us in this spiritual healing way, and not put so much pressure on us. I need to be like fit, need to be enlightened, I need to be rich, I need to be, yeah,
And I think part of that self love is respect for our true nature.
yeah,
We can't be like others, so we have to honor and respect our true nature and be established in that.
great, yeah,
That's part of the problem. People always procrastinate to be themselves. They're always afraid to be themselves. That's why I realized that many people, they're not afraid of death. They are more afraid to be themselves. This is what I
yeah,
hear from many students. Oh, but if I do that, then people will say this. Oh, if I do that, there somebody will criticize. Oh, if I do that, I will not be perfect. That's the problem. They are afraid to even be themselves. That's the biggest problem.
yes, exactly, yeah, yeah. And I'm trying to help that kind of people, especially the people who are on and you are also helping, yeah, but I'm more into, I am specialized for the gifted people, if also not if they are also not recognized, but they feel that something is inside them that is trying to emerge. And I am going to have another program of art heals therapy that helps people. Now we are finishing our program on Monday that is already going on, and the next one will also start soon. So if someone is interested, let me know. These are for 4 Mondays usually, that we are tapping a little bit in this vast area of our potentials and seeds with light and with yoga therapy and art therapy. We just have another question, Kausthub, of coming from Rebecca, and then I suggest we are going to close this interview. So Rebecca is saying, because we have now this fantastic tool, you see, Rebecca is saying, if Prakriti is made of the guna and tamas, and the divine is without guna, isn't it different, a different kind of light? Isn't sattva a guna? She's asking.
Sattva is guna, but Ishvara is not sattva. The divine is not sattva. The divine
Yeah,
sattva is lightness.
yeah,
Sattva is not light.
yeah,
There's a big difference.
yeah.
Sattva
Makes
is lightness.
okay.
So of course, Ishvara is something that is completely beyond the gunas. There is nothing, none
Yeah.
of the gunas define Ishvara, which basically means it's Ishvara is transcendent of everything.
Yes. As you said, we should not connect that to light and to dark, but to higher.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you, Rani. Yeah, Rani is on my program. Thank you, Rani. I think we are going to close today. Sorry for some technical difficulties at the beginning. Now Kausthub knows the new headphones needs to be adjusted, and the old one are fantastic. So the next time we will figure it out these technical problems in the beginning. So thank you very much, guys, for listening us, and join us in 2 weeks for another interview. I think we will go a little bit further, even with that topic, Kausthub. There are several topics that I detected here. We will let you know. Stay tuned, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Kausthub.
Namaste.
Our dear teacher. And in the end, Kausthub are going to chant for us a chant, and we are going to put Amanda's comment here.
सर्वभूतस्तमेकन्नारायणम् कारणरूपमकारपरब्रह्मोऽहम् एतद् अथर्व शिरो यो अधीते प्रातरधीयानो रात्रिकृतं पापन्नाशयते सायमधीयानो देवसकृतं पापन्नाशयते माध्यन्दिनम् आदित्याभिमुखो धीयान पञ्चपातकोपपातकात् प्रमुच्यते सर्ववेदपारायण पुण्यल्लभते नारायण सायुज्यमवाप्नोति श्रीमन्नारायण सायुज्यमवाप्नोति य एवं वेदा इत्युपनिषत् हरिः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste, friends.
Namaste, friends.